Good evening and welcome to the Iarmhi TV Club Podcast, episode 3, where tonight we're going to look back on the first round of the Hurling Championships and we look forward then to this weekend's round 2 of the Hurling Championship. I'm joined by our same 3 pundits we had last week. On my left is Adrian Moran, on my immediate right Brendan Shaw, and on far right Pat O'Brien. Lads, you're all very welcome.
Thanks,
Ray. Before we start into the looking back on the first round games, just a couple of things I want to go through. Brendan, I know this will apply to you as much as everything, but the death on Saturday morning of Detti Carnali. Oliver Plunkett a couple of weeks ago, they lost their president, Maurice Wallace, and now Mullingar Shamrocks have lost their president. Club Iarmhi have lost a very valuable worker. Like, it's not that long ago we've seen Detti in selling the halftime tickets, and she was a regular at every Westmeath home game doing the same. So you probably had more dealings with her than most.
Yeah, look, Detti has been a very loyal supporter of Mullingar Shamrocks and Westmeath for many, many years, and all her family were heavily involved with Mullingar Shamrocks and Oliver Plunkett's and Westmeath. And Detti, of course, is very well known. She was a real, how would you say, people person. She dedicated herself to service. She was she was a councillor for a while with the Westmeath County Council, and but she was, I suppose, my dealings with her were with Iarmhi, or with Club Iarmhi, excuse me. And look, Detti's health had been failing over the last while, but she was a constant presence there and supported all the ventures that the fundraising were doing. So she'll be sadly missed by everybody. Yeah,
of course, Robbie involved with the refereeing, her son, and David then is involved very much with Oliver Plunkett as well. So we send our sympathies from the podcast here, from every one of us here, to the Carnali family. The second thing, lads, just to throw it out, I've seen an article breaking on the Hogan Stand today. I don't know how much truth or how much credence in it, but where Westmeath are now looking for a new sponsor. So I don't know how much is in it, or what we can take on it, but maybe not great timing for Westmeath County Board in the middle of trying to get definitely a hurling manager, possibly a football manager. We're trying to get more funding for our Centre of Excellence, so it's going to be a busy time next couple of weeks for our county board. Brendan, I'd say you're glad you're sitting here beside me.
Well, I don't envy the lads and Frank and Keith there. Reynolds have been in situ for about 12 years, and to replace a sponsor it's not it's not a very straightforward objective. It's quite difficult, in fact, and people out there mightn't realise, and I'm not going to mention any figures, but these sponsorship deals are not as lucrative as people might think they are. So, and look, at Westmeath, let's be honest, we're kind of maybe not as how would you say, high in the stakes as a lot of other counties, so we may not be as an attractive county for sponsors to get behind. But look, I'm sure there will be somebody will come forward, and I hope that it does get sorted, because we are a proper dual county and we do get exposure at a fairly high level, and you'd hope that that could be sorted out pretty quickly.
Is it easier to get a sponsor for both, Brendan, or could we go, like, say, for example, Meath Hurling Football have 2 separate sponsors?
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. Like, these, it really depends on the sponsor and what they want out of it. And, contractually, there's a lot of terms and conditions, and it's not always straightforward how these deals are negotiated. But I don't envy the lads now in their task.
Yeah. Before we move on to the club thing, last weekend on our podcast we had a viewer from official Cork GAA tuned in to listen to our podcast as well, so I don't know what he was expecting to hear from up here. But lads, throw it out to you, we're all hurling men. Adrian, you were at the All-Ireland final. It was great first half, but a great second half for one team only.
Yeah, I suppose the first point is the goal before half time. I suppose we'd say it was against the run of play. going in 6 points up was a bit of a false scoreline for Cork. Tipperary were a very, very dominant force in the first half from my perspective. They did a lot of things right and were holding Cork very well. Use of the ball was very, very good. The wides tally for Tipperary at half time, I think it was 8 or 9, and if they had even scored another 50%, you were looking at a draw game then at half time as such. Second half, I don't think anyone in the country could have foreseen what was going to happen with Cork, and you'll hear rumours about different dressing rooms and everything. If there was issues in the dressing room, we all know it's very hard to recover from it. Patrick Horgan and a lot of people in the country hoping that he'd get his Celtic cross, missing a free just after half time to put them 7 points up was probably a big free at the time, and while we all might consider it a tap over free, it just goes to show you, and we had the same here last year in the Senior B final with Dara Clinton, a tap over free, and it just didn't go right, the same as Patrick Horgan. So it's at all levels, it can happen to anybody, but it was people are talking about the collapse of Cork. It was an exhibition by Tipperary also, like their physicality in the semi-final against Kilkenny. While it wasn't a spectacle of hurling, I was at it also, and it was a fantastic battle. That nearly more old school hurling. Pat might talk about it in a few minutes. That battle that was actually, it was so intense with Tipperary and Kilkenny on the field. It didn't allow for spectacle of hurling, but Tipperary played the ball so well that they're around the park and got some fantastic scores. They're definitely a force, and people are saying even in Tipperary that they might be a year or two early, but they'll be fairly happy with it last weekend.
Pat, were you ever in a predicament like Pat Ryan found himself in last week? Where your team totally collapsed, and you become very helpless on the sideline at that stage, don't you?
Oh, it's a lonely spot. Now, I can't recall a total collapse like that, but I'm sure we did have many a day that a game got away from us, and the scribes on the hill and the lads that know everything were calling for heads and wondering what we were doing or not doing. But look at it, sport is a strange thing. There's no sentiment in sport. I've said that numerous times. So it's just all on the day. If any of these young lads got a lesson about never listen to pundits, that was it. Because on the Saturday day, the Independent always gives a full 2-page article with 7 pundits, and they all give their different scenarios. And the last question they're asked is to give the scoreline, and every one of the 7 gave a good win for Cork. And the strange thing about it, the same 7 came along last Sunday, and 6 of them gave Donegal to win, and only 1. So don't read too much into us either, because we're only here to give an opinion, and whether it be right or wrong, it's our opinion. But look, it was fascinating in one sense to see how Tipperary dealt with the scenario that they were dealt with, because they, going into it, probably said, well, we'll have a cut at this. So what are we going to do? If we go man-to-man and play a normal game, Cork will run through us. But they didn't. They came up with their own idea, their own plan. They said to hold it to half-time, play an extra defender, but they didn't do the usual thing of playing a sweeper, flying from one wing to the other wing. They put a sweeper on one side of the field, forced Cork to the other side, flooded that side, bringing back the midfielders to half hours, and it just left space above. And they told, I suppose, the lads that were left in the forward line, you work as hard as you possibly can to gain as much ball as you can, and we'll do our best to put it in as good an area as we can. Now, Croke Park is a huge, big, wide field. It suits that kind of a scenario. But the tip forwards worked extremely hard. And as Adrian said, it probably was a false scoreline going in at half-time. Tip had a lot of possession, got a goal disallowed, missed 5 or 6 scoreable points. I'd say, and afterwards, Liam Cahill said they were delighted to be going in, they said, around 5 or 6 points. But nobody could envisage what happened. Nobody. I couldn't. I've never seen it before.
And also the youth. There's no fear in youth. And the 3 young lads from Tipperary were phenomenal on the day. And it just goes to show, Darren McCarthy, getting 2 sending offs, 2 red cards during the championship. What a way to finish out the year. And no fear in youth.
Yeah, but you see, confidence breeds confidence. And when you get into a game and all of a sudden you see that you're in it, even though you're underdogs, and all of a sudden things start to go for you, it's amazing what confidence does. All of a sudden you become a hero within yourself, and you do things that you were nervous about doing going into the game. So everything went right for Tip. But everything Cork tried in the second half, including Hoggy's first free, 3 balls hit the post, crossbar, missed the penalty, a man put off. Now, you couldn't write much more carnage for them.
Goalie bringing down a ball.
Well, that's it. The goalkeeper, possibly, if you want to be critical, he was at the cause of 2 goals. I mean, the last goal that John McGrath got, everyone was saying, wasn't he a great man to keep his eye on the ball? I can picture Sean Greville when I was playing back in my time. He would have brought ball, John McGrath and me all out, and he'd have had the ball.
Yeah.
So it was tips today. It was written in the stars for tip and more luck.
I suppose when you look at the man of the match, a lad scoring 113, John McGrath being phenomenal, and Ronan Maher coming out of it. There was 6 or 7 lads on the Tipperary team, maybe more, that were capable of man of the match. So it goes to show you the level it was at on the day, that team were at on the day.
But I'd say this defeat will be difficult for Cork to get over. Last year they were beaten by a point. They were in very hard luck. They hurled really well. But this was a total collapse. The people of Cork, you're great when you're winning. And in fairness to them, they won the league and they won the Munster Championship and they got to the All-Ireland and they were winning at half time. They only had another 35 minutes to go to be absolutely heroes. Yeah. And all of a sudden, the wind changes the mood. But the people of Cork have to realise that these lads are amateurs. They went out to do their best. They had no intention of doing what happened. It happened. That's sport. So you have to dust yourself down, but it will take time to get over this. You know, it's a tough blow, and you must remember Limerick are still sitting there again. I'd say the biggest team that's really saying this one got away from us is Kilkenny.
Yeah.
They will have said this got away from us this year, and there probably wasn't the best Kilkenny team that we've seen in a number of years, but Kilkenny get to an All-Ireland, and especially against Cork, they seem to have their number.
Yeah, I was at the game as well, Ray, and I have to say the second half was a bit surreal. You know, there was great Cork support there all the way through the stadium, but once Tipperary got on level terms, it's just like there was it was like a morgue almost. There was no the Cork people couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
And you know, you'd have to give great credit though to Liam Cahill as well. He's done it now at minor, under 20 and senior and
21.
And he's been. I suppose Tipperary be a very unforgiving county in terms of success. Like they wouldn't, entertain any kind of not when an All-Ireland is an objective every year in Tipperary. And there was people calling for asking him and questioning him, was he the right man last year? And look, he's stuck with it, and it's probably a valuable lesson for any manager that you just have to keep working at it. And I suppose he did give youth, as Adrian said, these guys, these under 20s, there's young McCarthy and a couple of more there. They really, they didn't fear anything. Like I was where I was seated, I was looking at the goal or the penalty that John McGrath, like it was a real old style. He put his arm in around the full back. He knew he was on a yellow card, and it was a classic. Look, it was a penalty, but what was remarkable for me was the coolness of the young guy, Darren McCarthy, hit that penalty. It was just like, it didn't. It was like he was doing it in training. It was, not in front of 80,000 people.
And he scored another one in the championship on Saturday evening.
Yeah.
And Shelley saved the penalty on John McGrath.
Yeah.
So they were back at it fairly quickly.
But just before we move on, just one thing, and I want to just kind of hit on what Pat is saying. The narrative before the All Ireland final and all the wise pundits were all, Cork had scored 7 goals against Dublin. There was their name was on the cup almost, like it. And I think for players it's hard to even here in Westmeath at club level, it's hard for players to kind of ignore or not to be influenced by that narrative. And I think it did affect Cork. Cork, they didn't have any answers when Tip started to come at them.
Look, lads, we'll move on because we are part of a club podcast, but still we're on a hurling thing, so there's no harm to cover that. So for the Cork GA, the official man that was watching us, or woman that was watching us last week, we shared your pain as well, because we've all been in the same predicament, maybe not on as big a stage, but it's a lonely place to be. Right, lads, we're looking back on the first round of all our hurling championships. We might go in reverse order again and start with the intermediate championship. 3 games, Southern Gales 118, St Bridget's 115, Turin 214, Raharney 15 points, and Castleton-Gagan 313, Clonkill 213. Pat, I don't know you had any of the games. I was obviously on the sideline with St Bridget's and Southern Gales. You'd see the Castleton game or...
Yeah, I was in the park actually when both them games are on. It's hard to be everywhere, as the fella said. But look I suppose the best result would have been the Turin result.
Yeah.
You know, because they were, I suppose, coming in this year on the hope that the youngsters that they were bringing through from the last number of years, they were up to the age this year, and they were, I suppose, had to really see how they would going to gel in and develop as they went along. And Raharney had acquitted themselves very well in the earlier part of the league, like getting to a league final in Division 2. So they actually done well. They got over the line, and it's a huge boost, you know, in this level. You know, it'll give them huge confidence going forward. Because we did state last week that, you know, there's 3 adult teams, second strings, and then you have 3 soul clubs. They need to be wary of the 3 second string teams, you know, because they have plenty of ability, they have plenty of numbers, and they have a training at a higher level with their senior team. So it was a good scalp for them, you know, to get over the line on that.
And I think, I know you have one of the local papers in front of you there looking at the team on it, and I think they may not even have used some of those young lads because you know, a couple of them seem to be on holidays and whatever. So they're going to play Bridges now in Cuban Park next Saturday. And you know, realistically, if they pick up 2 more points, you're, you know, sitting pretty looking at a semi-final place early doors.
Yeah, and just on that game, because obviously I was in the park as well, so I didn't see it, but talking to a couple of Turin lads, and I'd be fairly familiar with them because we were on the same with intermediate for so long and playing them in leagues, and that one very notable thing is usually you're looking at Ray Ahi scoring 12-13 points from frees and another 3 or 4 chipping in behind, but it was 2-14, 2-10 from play, which is a great turnaround for Turin. And you know, Ray wasn't on the frees, Sean Leach was on the frees, but also another standout with Danny McGrath, who's, we'd know him from underage hurling, playing in the forwards, played at centre back. So it's great to see that, you know, being tried and you know, lads getting the options of different positions of the pitch, and it obviously worked very well for them. They were short 5, as you said already, Ray, with lads away on holidays and lads over for the summer and injuries, but I think they'll have 3 or 4 of those guys back over the next couple of weeks, and that result gives them a big head-to-head result for a semi-final with Raharney.
Yeah, as I said, one more win is probably going to be enough.
Oh yeah, it would be like, I mean, the 4 points. Yeah, like it's as we said at the last on the last podcast, the first win in that competition, you know, it's a huge boost to them, and you know, Raharney have no complaints. Turin were the better team on the night by a long distance, and you know, they were highly organised and motivated and fully deserved their win. And you know, it looks like, you know, that they're building nicely now, and another win maybe would rightly set them up for the semi-final.
Yeah, we'll keep blowing them up here now.
But you see, these younger lads there have played Division 1. You know, been amalgamated with Loughlane Gills and the Pierce League. They've got a lot of, you know, and would have benefited from that, and hopefully benefit more for it in over the next 2 or 3 years as well, with more guys coming through.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, they've been waiting. I think we had John Shaw on here sometime last year, like, and he was saying how they were waiting, you know, really waiting for these lads to come through, and then they couldn't get them last year, and you know, the year has come from it. I know they lost young Heffernan.
John's lad is
to a knee injury, like, you know, and he waiting, you know, to get his first chance at adult hurling. So, you know, there's nothing guaranteed, as you say. I was on duty with St Bridget's against Southern Gales. Cracking match down in Ballymore as well. Could have gone either way. Southern Gales very good. You know, Keane Geary excellent. Keane McCarthy very, very good. The 2 Martins.
Sean Dowd.
Yeah, Sean Dowd. But the 2 Martins, very, very big, strong, physical lads.
Yeah.
And they got a goal. We got a goal back on them. You know, they were ahead kind of pretty much the whole way through it. We hit the post in the last couple of minutes, and they were defending 265s one after the other just to hang on to it and to win by 3 points. Yeah, it could have gone either way, as I said, but look, we'll hope that we can move on and you know, pick up a win next week. But you know, Southern Gales, I'd say overall worthy, won't say well worthy, but worthy of the win. Senior B, St Oliver Plunkett's 20 points, Crooked Wood 213, Ringtown 119, Brownstown 18 points, and Delvin 411, Cullion 210. Adrian, I know you were in the park, you would have seen some of those games. Your own club was down with Ringtown and Brownstown.
Yeah, that was the second game in the park that evening, and to be honest, it could have went either way too, because we got a goal, I think there's 2 or 3 minutes into injury time, and it really kind of put a bit of daylight in it. Ringtown 119, 111 from play. Nothing in it the whole way through. Niall Leonard on one side was strong. Tiernan Purcell looked nippy and looked dangerous. I think he came in with 2 or 3 points. A little bit of a change in the Ringtown setup halfway through the second half. A very young lad, only first year, Callum O'Boyle, came in and robbed the ball from one of the Brownstown lads coming out and scored a very, very valuable point to keep us in the running. And it was at a valuable time of the game from my perspective. And great to see a young lad of 18 coming in and, you know, having a contribution. Now, notably, Brian Gearan didn't start, and came on with 6 or 7 minutes to go in at full forward. Really didn't get in any ball. Very heavily strapped, looked like a hamstring injury. Whereas, you know, if he was probably at 11 or with a bit more room to run and a fit man, as we know we've seen last year, but probably didn't have the impact for Brownstown, and they were throwing everything at it. Niall Leonard was good, you know. He's dangerous, like he's so risky, and got a bit of abuse on the terrace there from a couple of women that evening. And a girl was playing full forward against Bridges the week before, 2 or 3 weeks ago in a final. Yeah, she scored a goal. She reckoned it was one of the best goals ever scored in Cusick Park. Ray should be. I won't mention any names, but it was great banter on the terrace, and great to see it. A bit of crack going on, you know. But very, very close game. Apart from Darren Kilkine's goal separating in the last few minutes, it could have really went either way. Whoever got the goal was, you know, from, we'll say, the last 15-20 minutes, whoever was going to get that goal was...
Yeah, and it was tit for tat all along, and like Ringtown looked to be in control reasonably, but then Brownstown came back into it in the early part of the second half, and it looked like it was swinging away. Yeah. But, you know, credit to Ringtown, I suppose. There was a ball, I would say, where the goal came from. I remember Conor Shaw tapped it back, and one of the half backs was very, very lethargic and going to collect it. Yeah. And it went straight on in, and Darren Kilkine finished it. It was, you know, if that half back really went for it, a Tipperary half back wouldn't have let by that kind of a ball. Yeah. But in saying that, I'd say Ringtown also are very pleased that the new young goalkeeper kept a clean sheet, you know, because to fill Pat Burke's shoes now was a daunting task down in that part of the world. So, you know, he done quite well, and it was his first big day out. So, you know, the likes of Emmett Corrigan was good. Mark Cunningham he grew into the game. He didn't actually set it alight at it early on, but he grew into it, and you know, he was quite good. Luke Moore is another big presence. I'd say Ringtown looked impressive to me now. But Brownstown coming up from intermediate gave as good as they got. So they're two teams that I'm sure will be there towards the end of the season.
Yeah, I didn't get to any of the Senior B games over that weekend, but I suppose we remarked here the last night how close all these teams are, and so it proved. Yeah. You know, there was very little between any of them, and that the Crooked Woods and Oliver Plunkett's game was, you know, was a real ding-dong affair, and you know, they could have that was a really tight game, and I think all these games throughout this competition are going to be of a similar nature. They're going to be all very tight, and you know, it's all on the day really for these teams.
Depending who you have or who you're without, you know, lads are still going on holidays, lads away.
You know, a lot of these lads are dual players, like we mentioned Brian Gearan there, you know, and you know, there's a lot of overlap with football as well. There is going to be injuries throughout the year, so teams are going to be strong. They're going to lose players, you know, they're going to get players. So, you know, it's a very competitive competition. You just don't know round and round who's going to.
And unlike the intermediate, it's the same as the seniors. It's 3 teams.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Anyone that lost last weekend, coming into this weekend, really need to get a win under their belt.
Oliver Plunkett's and Crooked Wood. Aaron Craig free, I think, pretty much in the very end of the game to get Oliver Plunkett over the line. But that would have been still. Pat, you always talk about Crooked Wood and how hard they are to beat, and they were right on that one as well. To the very probably
Absolutely.
They didn't get a point over.
I'd say they were probably listening to me last week and said, well, we'll sicken this fella, we'll show them what we can do, because I hadn't rated them as a real contender. I respected them, and I told that as what I thought, that they possibly would be under pressure. But I noticed a great thing here. Barry O'Mara now, not alone is he the prolific free taker, but he's also the manager. So he's a player manager, which I haven't seen in a while. So wish him the best of luck and more credit to him. And he led by example. He nailed his frees, but it was a very tight affair all through. And Aaron Craig did step up. He got 2 valuable points. He got one before that towards the end of the game, and then he got a long range free. So I was more than surprised that the Wood put it as strongly as they did. So they have that fighting spirit. They'll never go down without a shout. Whether they have enough of quality to win the games that are necessary, because they're all tough games for them, but they're a proud bunch of lads down there, and they'll give it everything. And I'm sure Barry will bring that bit of energy, and there's nothing like a new voice and a homegrown, and he leads by example.
Talking to a few of the Wood lads, and they're very disappointed. And even when you look through the stats on it, 20 points for the Wood, 13 from play, 2-13 for Plunkett's, but 2-3 from play. More so reliant on the frees, and the Wood obviously giving away the frees, which is an issue also. But they're very disappointed. Felt they could have and should have won it.
Yeah.
And
it would have been a big scalp for them, because obviously Oliver Plunkett's coming down from senior. If you look at it, you're probably seen as the strongest team in it. And if you had taken that scalp, it would have been a great start.
Yeah, well, it would. Like Oliver Plunkett's, we kind of predicted here the last night that they would kind of win that. But Crooked Wood are a proud club, and they're not going to lie down easily. And they'll battle, and especially with Barry he'll get the max. He'll get every inch out of them.
The other game in that group, Delvin 4-11, Cullion 2-10. That game was the curtain raiser in Cusick Park, the first game in Cusick Park as such. Seen a little bit of it. Delvin very, very good in the first half, but very similar to that corresponding game last year. Only scored something like 4 points in the second half.
Yeah, but I'd say Cullion were very disappointed with themselves. They just did not turn up. I think it was 2-5 to no score in the early parts. And Delvin they were missing Darrell Clinton and they were missing Paddy Farrington, I think. So they acquitted themselves very well. Now they have a good setup on the line. They have Seamus there, who's real motivator. He's local grown. His heart is in it. And Barry Kennedy beside him, and you couldn't have a better coach than Barry, and Josh Call or John Call. So they're set their stall out well this year. But they hurled actually quite well, Adam Ennis, Dean Ennis and Josh Call, these young lads, they moved the ball quite well, but it just didn't happen for Cullion. And you couldn't see where the leadership was coming from. Now they gradually, they scored 2-10, but 2-4 came from place balls. So that's the 6 points.
Jack Killen with 2 goals and 2 frees.
Yeah, but it's not good enough at this level. And they were the game was well over. Long before Cullion started to wake up to something about it. So it's back to the drawing boards for Cullion, but they're not as poor as that scoreline showed. You would be hoping anyway, because Stephen Morley is a proud lad and puts a lot of work into these teams. So it's the likes of the Regans and Jack Gillen they're county players that have been training under county management. They have to step up. And it's not going to get any easier going forward. Because I think Cullion have to go to Ringtown.
The Wood of Cullion, I think, next, is it?
Is it Wood of Cullion, right?
And that'll be
in Brownstown. There's nothing easy in this. Because the Wood are looking at that and saying, well, this is this is our chance here because we performed quite well. We didn't get a result, but we'll go for this one.
That game is the Wood and Cullen.
Cullen, I think
that's a vital game now for both them because you know if you're defeated the second time, you know the wind is really in your face. Then
well, it can be a long year after that.
And very hard. Maybe you know some lads might lose heart. You know, beaten twice. You know, so there's a lot at stake in that game.
Yeah.
You know.
See, with only 3 teams, the same as the senior, it's very, very tight. If you were to who down after 2, it's a really an uphill struggle.
I seen some of that first half of Delvin and Cullen, and there was a brilliant goal scored in it. I think it was Josh Coll finished it with a ground stroke.
Yeah.
To the back. You know, it was great skill in the lead up to it, and you know he is a talented young player, and you know a player that, you know performed well down in Páirc Uí Chaoimh a couple of years ago and has fallen off the county scene since that, and definitely he has oodles of talent.
And another man you mentioned that evening was Owen Carlin.
Yeah.
Good work rate, busy, getting around the place. Dean Ennis was good, lively, his usual self, I suppose. Look, Delvin looked sharp. Did Cullen make them look sharp? Cullen looked lethargic. Whether it was
for long stages they did, didn't they?
Yeah, they did, yeah. But Delvin full credit for the win.
The only worry I would have for Delvin, and it was the same last year, and I remarked on it, this time of the year suits Delvin. They're a lightish team. They're lively, they move the ball well, the pitches are dry, but when it gets back into the knockout stages in October, the physicality of them, you know, it'll tell, and it told last year against Ballymore, Father Dalton's, that they were hurling as good as Father Dalton, but they couldn't match that physicality in a dirty, wet day and the pitch starting to cut up, and that's what my only worry for them. But as regards organisation and, you know, skill and endeavour, they got 10 out of 10.
Yeah, well, look, I'd say Seamus Ennis won't mind getting back to that situation at the end of this year as well. So, right, lads, we'll move on to the Senior A. 3 games. Big one covered on Iarmhi TV. Castlegagan 28 points, Loughlane Gales 317. Raharney 226, Father Dalton's 27, and Clonkill 119, Castle Pollard 29. Right, to start at the top, lads, it was the repeat of last year's county final. We had lots of incidents, lots of controversy, some great hurling, some great scoring, sending off, managers getting sent off, you know, but this game had everything.
But that's what the pundits love. That's why the people pay their money going in the gate. They don't want to see a dour affair across the field and the ball not going anywhere. This is what they wanted. For a neutral, I said this was a great game. It was a great start to the championship.
I wasn't at it myself, but like, you know, it was a cracker by all accounts, and you know that's what the championship needs to get off to a good start, and you know all the bit of drama on the sideline as well added to that whole spectacle.
Absolutely. No, I mean,
like at half time, Pat, Adrian, at half time it looked like there was only going to be one winner, and I think Adrian, we commented that Loughlane Gales arrived out for the start of the second half after about 5 minutes in the dressing room, so they obviously got.
They had a row in the dressing room.
They
had the real row in the dressing room.
A constructive one, though.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, they were very, very close to snatching a win with this one.
I thought when Noel Connaughton made the save through the second half, I thought that was a turning point for the Gales. I thought that we were going to push on from then because Castletown in the first half played lovely hurling, as Castletown are very well capable of. Probably, look at from a neutral perspective, probably played around with the ball a little bit too much around the half-back area, trying to carry the ball through the lines, and 1 or 2 lateral passes that they get caught on. The Gales overturned them, and that kept the Gales in the game, we'd say, coming up to half-time. David O'Reilly had the freedom at Cusick Park in the first half, and for a good part of the second half as well. The Gales just couldn't tie him up, and I think he came in with 4 or 5 points as it finished up. Another young man that came in was Dean Slevin. Pat, you'd know an awful lot more about him than I would, but he scored, I think, 2 or 3 points as well, and looked good, you know. Castletown, with the way they started and the way they were hurling, probably should have been out of sight at half time, an awful lot stronger on the scoreboard. And I'd say, look at when Joey went in at half time, it's a game that he would have been looking forward to since, you know, last November. First round of championship against the team that's after beating in the county final, and I'd say he was absolutely disgusted at half time and read the riot act, which he was quite entitled to do, and he got the response from it from early in the second half. Jogger was a massive threat on the edge of the square. Probably Gale's probably a little bit guilty of not putting enough ball in on top of him. A couple of wayward shots from 70, 75 yards out, and there's nothing as bad as you standing on the edge of the square and seeing these balls drifting wide. A bit frustrating. Sending off then with the after a little bit of a melee or whatever probably didn't help the Gales really, because Castleton started to come out with the ball a little bit easier with that extra man.
Yeah, we just come back to Jogger, Pat. He was absolutely excellent on the edge of the square.
Unreal. He was unmarkable.
He was. Really,
and that's the bottom line. Now, I mean, I suppose Castletown done okay in the first half, but once Collinstown started to find the proper passes. Now, as Adrian said, they were doing everything to put the ball in there. That's the route was but they were overhitting some of them and they were going wide and whatever. But he was a serious threat because he has the height. But then when he puts his hand up, that extra height, and he commands huge respect. So, I mean, he's going to be a serious threat for any club that's playing Collinstown at the moment. So the thing is to put the pressure on the ball coming into him. That's what Castletown were trying to do. But they had issues inside, like he created scores, he made scores, he took scores, and he had one that was disallowed, whether it was in or not. But
yeah, that was a bit controversial by all accounts.
Well, sure.
What was it, a penalty or
a square ball?
A square ball, I mean, yeah. So, games, can hinge on those sort of decisions, and you get them some days, and some days you don't. But
Collinstown, look at it, even going in 15 points to 8 at half time down, and I'm sure Joey did go berserk inside. But they're the one team that will respond to that kind of an attitude. There's some teams you can lay into them and things mightn't happen at all. But Collinstown are one team that if you get them up, they will stay up. Yeah. And they got stuck into it straight away. And they're a proud group of lads, like they lost the last two finals. So they're really putting their shoulder to the wheel this year to try and get it right. But all I would say is there was no county final won or lost last Sunday. You go back to last year, Castletown lost the very first round last year also. And they went on and continued to win in the rest of the games. So Collinstown, they'll be very happy with 3-17 at the end of the day. It's a big pull up from 8 points at half time, and if they build on that, and if they keep the Jogger fit on the square, they're in with a huge chance in every game.
But Brendan, to lose two county finals in a row, the first one, your own club, Hurling, heartbreakingly at the end, then last year's county final, and like for Joy to come back again a third year, like in pretty much the same bunch of players. Yeah, I mean, it takes some resolve to get them back.
Yeah, and you'd have to admire the resilience of that group of players. Like maybe they didn't have the best start in the game against Castletown in the first half, but like they kept plugging away and. They worked really hard in the second half, and when Jogger's on form like that, he's a handful for anyone, and like he will make things happen when he's playing like that, and he'll score himself, he'll throw the ball around, like he has great presence there at the edge of the square, and so I mean that old style Route 1 hurling might be suiting the Gales. If they're going to deploy him in that capacity.
Probably one aspect of Castletown's game in the first half, they closed down the Gales puckouts. And you're often sitting here at home or sitting in a match saying, why doesn't he go long or why doesn't he go short? Noel Connolly tried everything. We commented on it at the time. He went short, he went long, he went very short, but Castletown's aggression from Angus now was phenomenal, up and down the line, the work rate. He was underneath the puckout when it dropped on his half back. He was closing down the corner back coming out with the puckout. He was hurling like a lad of 25. His energy, he had lots of energy, lots of work rate from him, and Castletown really closed down the puck out and dominated the puck out for the first, I'd say, 27-28 minutes of that game, and it was a problem for the Gales. But look what they got together at half time and sorted it out, and were a very dominant force in the second half. And you could say they were unlucky because the goal which was or wasn't a goal, was a massive turning point in the game. And tempers get heated. Been on the line myself, Pat. We've all been on the sideline, and it's very easy to say something. And I hope that that there's not too much comes out of it in relation to Joey at the end of the day, because you know, there was nothing physical involved, nothing like that. And words, look, we can exchange words on the street out there if you meet someone and there's with a hot temper or whatever. So, you know, I hope that he's back on the sideline fairly soon.
Yeah, well, it just goes to show goals, like they say goals wins matches, but like Collinstown scored 3 goals, possibly could have had another, like it took 10 points for Castletown to get ahead of that. Now in fairness, Castletown ended up scoring 28 points. It's a fair turn at the end of the day, return, you know, but Castletown, a couple of things I would say, they need to find these goals. You know, they have a tendency to score a lot of points in all their games, but they need to find more avenues of creating and taking goal chances. But they also, I think, on that particular game, they were lacking that intensity and that toughness that they had in the last 3 games of last year's championship. Say, county final, the 2 Leinster championships. Like, they played with steel in them 3 games. They didn't bring that steeliness, I think, to Collinstown. Collinstown overturned them physically, you know, at times, especially in the second half, you know. So look, at both teams will be learning from it. It's the first real time with your county players back that they had, you know, to play an intensive game and that. So it was a good spectacle for the county championship.
3:31 from play. You know, it's and even you get that now in Cusack Park or any other venue around the county, you'd be happy with it from a spectator's point of view.
Yeah, look, and as Pat says, there was no trophies won last week either, so move on to the next one. Brendan, Raharney, Father Dalton's, I suppose, a predictable victory for Raharney, 226-2-7.
Yeah, it was. You know, Raharney, I suppose, did what they had to do in the game. They got the early goals and they had, you know, 2-6 or 2-7 on the scoreboard after 10 minutes, and you know, the game petered out a little bit after that, to be honest. And you know, they just got through the game. Like Father Dalton's battled manfully. Owen McCabe, as he always does, always comes up with a cracker of a goal, which he duly did. And you know, but I mean, there's I suppose Eamon Gallagher will be looking at it like that. You know, he has other battles to fight later on in the year, and you know, and so over Harney, by the way. So I mean, it was a game that probably just, you know, both teams just wanted to get out of the way and move on. Like, and I suppose as we predicted, like it was a fairly easy win for Harney in the end. Few injuries. Harney were down 2 or 3 starters, so they brought in a few younger fellas, and maybe that contributed then to, you know, them guys couldn't play for the intermediates on the following evening, so that weakened that outfit substantially. So, but look, you have to give these guys their opportunity at senior, and you know that's where they all want to be.
On that, like those 2 or 3 are going to be in your subs at some stage. They're going to be used anyway. Yeah. So from an outside perspective, looking at Raharney, and as well with the other guys playing the intermediate, and getting more hurling and progression up. I know it's hard, an intermediate team that straight away they're down 3 guys and probably could have contributed to the result being the other way against Turin. But
if a very lad that played senior like that, maybe his first time playing senior, like, you know, he's going to push himself and try and, you know, stay at that level, and you know that's his benchmark now. And like that's what it's all about, really, is getting players, transitioning them from in a club like Raharney, transitioning players from, you know, up to the highest standard possible, and you know that's the objective, you know, really. And you know, I mean, that first round game Raharney played Clonhill, I think, in the next round and next Sunday, and that's, you know that's a different scenario altogether for you know for Raharney, and you know the you know, and I suppose any of the teams in any of these particular championships, you know, having a squad of players now is really vital, you know, because you need 20 players there. Like, you're not going to go the whole year with the same team. You're going to have injuries, and you know, this, that, and the other. Like, and you need 20 guys to win a championship.
Yeah, look, and on that whole thing about bringing players through, like when you have quality young players, they come out of underage hurling into adult hurling. Lads in Castletown, Clonkill, Raharney, they have the option of their intermediate team, but unless they can see a pathway through to playing senior hurling, I think you'll end up losing. There's a bigger risk in losing those kind of players.
Well, every guy wants to play at the top level. That's the natural, I suppose, desire of all the players. And the young guys, they want to get their opportunity, and you know they're going to push hard now to keep that. And you know, it keeps the older lads on their toes as well. Like that, nobody is saying, well, I'm playing senior for the last 10 years. That there's nobody going to push me off the team. But if you have a young lad coming through and he's nipping at your heels, that's very healthy for a squad. Like,
yeah, well, those 3 or 4 guys that played that maybe should have been on the intermediate team, they've nothing to fall back on now.
That's it.
So they have to work harder.
They have to work harder.
You're
Yeah.
only
To get
one
on
team now,
and stay on it.
And I mean, but I don't think that any of them will have any regrets. Like, you know,
Yeah.
they're going to be playing at the top level now, and you know, it'll push everyone on.
You know, you have young lads there, Pierce, Weir Norris and Luke Darby, and even Devin Hill started, like, you know,
Yeah.
he's been knocking on the door there.
Yeah.
You know, all these young lads are, like, they have been training away with the top players, but they want to play with them. They don't just want to train with them. They want to be with the Killians and the Robbies and all Joeys and all these lads. So, yeah,
Well,
incentive there to stay there.
Devin Hill now has, you know, he has really come on leaps and bounds this year, and he got a nasty injury in that match. He got a serious hand injury, but you know, he's a player that, you know, in both goals is going to, I think, have a big influence this year on games.
Yeah, brilliant underage footballer, underage hurler as well.
Yeah.
We see, you know, I think was he part of the St. Joseph Rochester Bridge team that won the Leinster football.
Yeah.
You know,
The talent is there.
talent is
great
there,
pace.
definitely. The last game in the group, Clonkill 119, Castle Pollard 2-9. I have to have a word with my source because I predicted the last year that David Devine would be playing with Castle Pollard, but it didn't work out. But Clonkill, you know, made to work hard to win this one.
Yeah, you know, I spoke to a few of the Clonkill guys after the game, and you know, the game was evenly contested for, I suppose, 15 minutes into the second half, but there was a red card for Clonkill, but I think they had enough quality just to close out the game. You know, they got through it, and you know, they got the job done really. You know, 119 I think they scored, was it?
Yeah.
You know, so they're fine scoring, like, you know, so you know, they'll be a handful now for anybody in the next games.
Yeah, I was speaking to a few that were at it. Pollard worked hard in the first half and that, but the one stat that when you look at things, I suppose, is that they had 4 points from play, 2-9 in total, but 2-5. 5 from frees, but from a points perspective, 4 points from play. So that's something that they'll be looking to work on over the definitely before next weekend. It won't be enough to win games going forward. So it's something to be working hard on, I suppose, from a Pollard perspective. David Devine played in club championship in London, and so that means he will be out. From that.
I'd have to stop paying my source.
Or pay him more.
One or the other, yeah. Yeah, come on, lads, we'll go on and look forward to the fixtures for the weekend. Again, we'll start with the intermediate championship. 3 games in this one, 2 of them on Friday and 1 of them on Saturday. Castlongegan and Southern Gales, Friday 7 p.m. in Shandona. Clonkill and Raharney, the first of the 2 meetings of the weekend. Again, Friday evening up in Coniston at 7 o'clock. And then Turin and St. Bridget's Saturday evening in Cusick Park at 5:15. Bit of form now, lads. I know we talked about the games last week and we were kind of in the dark. Everybody has 1 game played here now. Pat will start with Castletown Southern Gales.
Yeah, it's
Both teams going in with 2 points.
Yeah, like in Castletown, what I noticed was Conor Murphy has been out injured now for a long time since the Kilcormac match, and he made a return for a small bit of time there last weekend. So he's trying to get back into fitness. So if he, I don't know if he's available, you know, injury-wise to play, he'll be a help. You know, Castletown have a lot of young, skillful players in that. Now they will have lost Dean Slevin, but he acquitted himself very well when he moved into the senior team there the other day. It would be a game that Castletown will be looking to get over the line on this, because I think Southern Gales have a big turnover of players from last year's county final. They've only one of the Dowds playing at the minute. I think Callum is actually in Australia, and I'm not sure where Finn is, and they're missing a few other lads as well. You know, so look at. It'll be a new venue also for Southern Gales coming up to Shandona, you know. So tough enough one to call, but I would imagine Castletown, you know, the fact that they go over the line the last day and, you know, to have players there biting a bit to try and impress the management, to try and get on and see and follow on the likes of Dean Slevin onto the senior team that will be out to impress. So I would casually give them the nod on it.
Clonkill and Raharney, as I said, they're going to meet on the Sunday evening as well in the senior. Again, two of the second string teams coming up against each other, Brendan.
Yeah, like I mean, I suppose.
And both beaten in the first round as well.
Both beaten in the first round, and I suppose both would have lost, you know, lads that would probably would have played senior now when the first rounds are not available. So I think this will be a very, a very even game, to be honest, and could go either way. I really couldn't call it now, to be honest. I think it's, you know, it could go. You know, it's just really hard to predict that, but it's a vital game for both for both teams, because another defeat now, and you're going to get it difficult to make the semi-final.
Yeah, and Adrian, with the benefit of the intermediate team playing on the Friday, Clonkill had a red card, so they're probably going to possibly going to have to pull somebody from their intermediate team. You might get a game this weekend, but it could weaken them going forward.
It could, yeah. Like, and even when you look at last year, like Oisin Murray was flying through with their second team last year. I think he scored 1-2 or 1-3 last weekend.
Yeah.
So there's a stand up from last year. Yeah. Young Cleary scored 5 or 6 points.
Yeah, he was very good.
Yeah.
He's a lovely hurler. Very busy. But now obviously that's in the senior setup last weekend. But you know, it's very hard to call it. With Clonkill, I suppose I haven't seen either of them. And it's very, very hard to call. There'd be nothing in it, I'd say, at the end of the day. So, as the old saying goes, like a bad dog, you couldn't call it.
You couldn't call it. No.
And the last game then is in that intermediate is on Saturday evening, 5:15, Turin and St Bridget's in TG Cusick Park. I think it's Turin are nailed on to win this one.
Yeah. At least we're prepared to say it anyway. There's other boys are sitting on the fence.
Yeah.
The bottom line here is, it's a long time, I think, since Bridget's actually played in Cusick Park in a championship.
Yeah.
You know, so it's good to see it back in. It will be a tough one for them, because Turin are on the bounce. They will be really gunning for this. The, you know, youth, if it's a dry evening, you know, Cusick Park will suit them. You know, the ground is in great nick and that. Like you did say, I can't say I didn't see Bridget, but you were saying they did play well. They were unlucky. They fought hard. There was just came up short at the finish. You know, they won't fear Turin either. So, but if I'm to put my pound somewhere, I'm going to put it on Turin.
Well, Pat, fair play to you.
Yeah, look at it. Credit where credit is due. I think the fixtures committee have done, you know, a credit putting Turin and St Bridget's in Cusick Park as a curtain raiser, like, you know, gives them guys an opportunity.
Absolutely.
You know, I think it's brilliant, and you know, what better place to go and you display your hurling ability than in Cusick Park. And you know, Turin will have got a huge bounce from the first game. There's no question about that. But I think St Bridget's will give them plenty of it on Saturday evening. So I think that could be very tight again as well. I wouldn't think there'd be too much of that at all now. Maybe slightly favoured Turin, but not by a whole lot.
And while I'm on the subject of St Bridget's, and I'm going to put on my biased hat here, big day out there on Sunday, where we have the official turning of the sod on the purchase of our new pitch. And Life President will be taken out of retirement, and we'll get him up the road, and he's going to turn the sod.
He'll be there. You needn't have to get him at all.
Yeah.
Just get him a shiny spade.
and don't get too big a sod for him.
Oh, he'll be all right. He's well used to turning sods.
Yeah, so looking forward to a big day there, and you know, the lads make sure that they work and play on Sunday. In fairness, to the fixtures, put it on the Saturday evening. And you know, look, it'd be great to get 2 points, get your championship up and running, going into Sunday, you know, and the day of celebration. So I couldn't let it go.
So the official up 12 o'clock on Sunday.
1 o'clock on Sunday. Family day out to be young underage games. I don't know how they're going to play it because I don't know how long the grass is, but it's just
There's bales in it this evening,
No,
so
they're
you're okay.
okay.
Somebody mowed it.
Again. Okay, well, we'll be good for that. So, but lots of music, fun and games, and a family day out. So look, was hopefully it'll go well. But as I said, it'd be nice to get for the adult team to get 2 points on Saturday evening and make it all the better.
Yeah, but it's great to see it, Ray, because it's fantastic. Like, to see a club, has been there, and they have 4 senior championships. Remember, there's a lot of clubs that don't have that. And they were without their own base, so it's great to see it happening. And it was, by all means, there was a huge rally from the community of Dalystown, Meaden, all around that area to support financially to get them off the ground, and it was great to see it. So I wish them the best of luck, and hopefully it's up
I think
and
if you have a
onwards.
lifetime president, you'd be entitled to mention his name.
Well, it would be.
I'll mention him.
You mentioned Pat, yeah.
Well, Paddy Gavin is the man's name, and no better man, because he's well into his 90s.
Yeah, 94.
Well into it, and he's hale and hearty, and he loves hurling, passionate about it, and he was involved in all those championships that was won back from, was it 68?
68 to
70, 71 and 72. He missed out in 69. Whatever happened in 69, one of the, I think the Loughlin's from Clonkill got in.
Yeah, beaten by
Peter, some of them, but anyway, they were beaten. But that would have been some phenomenal return, But they had some fantastic players, the likes of Ollie Gallagher and back at them times, the Bradleys, and say there was Ollie Egan, and there was top class players, Liam Maher's, they were great players. So it's great to see it. So it'll be a proud day for Paddy and his family, and and I do hope they don't bring that old spade now. They got a good shiny silver spade for him, and do it in the proper style.
Yeah, but that's on a side note anyway. That's St Bridget's out there next week. And the Senior B Championship, lads, three big games. Crookerwood and Cullion on Saturday in Robinstown at 7 o'clock. Ringtown and St Oliver Plunkets on Sunday in Killucan at 4:30. And Delvin versus Brownstown also in Killucan at 6 o'clock. I'm going to go with the last game here first. Delvin and Brownstown, local derby.
Yeah, I think the last they played was in. It was in a relegation match, was it, in the park 2 seasons ago?
2 seasons.
Yeah.
And it went to the death the whole way. They'll bring the best out in each other, because there's love and hate involved in both clubs, because they're just a stone's throw from one another. Well, sure, that's it, and that's the beauty of it, it's, and they'll bring the best out in each other. Both of them are playing quite well. I said we already highlighted that Delvin got off to a great start. They're playing very expressive hurling, good management team behind them. They won't find it easy against Brownstown. Brownstown will be more physical now than they have said than Cullion were, and the likes of Conor Shaw and Niall Leonard and Devine and Fitzsimon. So these lads, if Brian Geary did play football now last weekend for Mullingar, so he possibly has recovered. He'll be a big threat. If Brian Geary goes in around the square.
Well, we've seen what he did last year in the intermediate final.
He'll be a serious, he's a fine man, and he knows what his hurl is about. So that'll be a very interesting game, and I would imagine it'll go very close also, because nobody wants to lose that.
Yeah.
For bragging rights alone. So it'd be interesting to see how that one pans out.
Ringtown and Oliver Plunkets. Again, we've 2 teams here that are off the mark with 2 points, and a win for either of them at the weekend, and it's going to be, they'll take an advantage heading in towards knockout.
Yeah, very much so, Ray. They're 2 teams that are going to go out and play hurling, and I predict that game will be a very, very tight affair. They'll both want to keep their momentum going from the first day and build on that. I suppose Ringtown will be hoping that they could just take that scalp. They will be, I suppose, seen as the underdog in this fixture. As with Oliver Plunkets coming down from the Senior A last year, so I think no better team than Ringtown to go out there and have a cut at Oliver Plunkets. But I'd just be somehow coming down on Oliver Plunkets just a little bit more overall than Ringtown. But I don't expect much to be much in it.
2 points for Oliver Plunkets, Adrian. Yeah.
I'd have to disagree.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
You impressed with Ringtown? Have there been things going well out there?
I think we're
so far.
I think we're fitter. than we have been. A good bit of work gone in, and sure, it's like everything. Every weekend is a different test. They had a great battle against Brownstown and looked impressive at times. I obviously probably a bit of bias in it, but I'd give Ringtown the nod this weekend. I think Paddy Lynham's a massive loss to Plunkett. I said it here last week, and Kieran Curley at full forward, centre forward because of his cuteness, and I think we just might have a little bit more. Go back to the stat of Plunkett scoring 2-3 from play in the last game.
No.
They scored 20 points.
Or sorry, 2-13, but 2-3 from play.
That was
the Wood.
Sorry, apologies. Oh yes, yeah. But I think Ringtown just might have enough in the tank.
Yeah, well, look, we'll see. The last game in the Senior B, it's on Saturday evening in Robinstown. Now, this is probably at the early stage of the championship, second game, but it's probably a do or die game for Cullinan.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Absolutely.
You know, there's a lot on the line for this game. You know, both teams beaten in the first round, so they'll have to, you know, another defeat now, and you're looking at the trap door here, and you know, it's not easy when you're in that position to try and eke your way out. So that'll be a real battle now. It's hard to call it, but I think you know, Crooked Wood might just have the edge there, but just as you know, they're physically a very strong. You know, like Fahey Og, Brennan there, and you know, those guys. You know, there's a really good player there, Adam Bate there. He plays a bit of football with Multi. He's a really good player, like, you know, and
speed,
and you know.
And Brendan, these lads are battle hardened in senior.
Oh yeah, you know, the tougher it gets, the better the Wood like it. They really do revel in that environment, and you know, I think Cullinan though have the ability to have the two Regans there and Jack Gillen, like, you know, there's quality there, like, you know, but they'll need more lads to step up now, I think, you know, along with them, and you know, it'll be a right tough battle, that.
Paddy, he's mentioned it, but they're looking to them, you know, two county players, and really they have to. I know you can't win games on your own, just two lads, but you know, they're huge players for
Well, they are, but
they have to stand up.
If I was management of Cullinan last weekend, I'd be very disappointed with them lads. You know, because they didn't perform. The county lads, you know, they showed the leadership wasn't there. I know Jack finished up with 2-4, but I think 2-2 of that came from place balls. And I mean, I'm just going back to Seamus Ennis. I'd say he was putting in a bit of work this weekend on how to defend frees. You know, because both of them goals came from frees. Right. Yeah. But the Wood will look at this game as a must-win for them, and a game that they can win, because they were disappointed, as Adrian said, for not getting the 2 points the last day. They performed quite well. They performed higher than I thought they would. What I seen of Cullinan the last day, unless they turn it around dramatically, they could be in trouble. And they seem to be doing the same scenario as they were doing last year. They started off poorly, got worse, and they ended up, the very last game was against Castletown to get out of staying or going down. And I said that if their big guys stand up, they have more quality than Castletown second string would have had at the time. And them lads did stand up that particular day. They need them lads now, because Barry O'Mara will have this primed, and as our good friend here says, the harder, the tougher, the better. If it's spilled, it'll suit the Wood. It doesn't matter. They'll take it any way you throw it at them. But this is a game that the Wood are here to win.
Adrian, local derby as well.
Yeah, and I've been involved in lots of them at the Wood. And you know, I know them very, very well, and a staunch club, like, and I can, the way I'd call it is, I'd rather play the Wood in the county final than play them in what we've concerning this to be a relegation battle, because it's do or die in relation to getting points to progression into the championship. I call it the Wood to win it now, to be honest.
Yeah, I think that's you know, looking at I only seen maybe 20 minutes of the Cullinan game against Delvin, and they look very lethargic, look disorganised. You're a team going out with high numbers on players' backs, and it just didn't seem to it didn't seem to look like a a group of players that were, well set.
Yeah,
Now
yeah.
I only seen 20 minutes of it or so. Before I go on to the senior lad, just to make a little bit of a call out to somebody else, well, Jimmy Castle's pub down in Ballymore. No, I don't want to. It's saying here that he's 145 years serving in Ballymore. Now I hope Jimmy's not down there for all of those 145. But anyways, big celebrations next weekend. Look, Jimmy, that's only a joke. He's a great GA man. Have a great weekend down there. And you're looking, if you're looking for something to do early, they come up to get us down. You'll have a great weekend, Jimmy. Well done. Keep that business going down there. Football and hurling in Father Dalton's and Ballymore. So the best of luck for the weekend. Hopefully the weather's good as well for you. Moving on, lads, Senior A. Saturday evening in TG Cusick Park, Castletowngeoghegan and Castlepollard, 7 o'clock. Raharney and Clonkill in TG Cusick Park on Sunday evening, as far as I'm aware, live on Iarmhi TV. And the curtain raiser in TG Cusick Park on Sunday is Loughlane Gales and Father Dalton's. We'll look at the game, the first game in TG Cusick Park, Loughlane Gales and Father Dalton's. Eamon Gallagher has a big job now they shipped a big score last week. Loughlane Gales will have come out of that game with a lot of confidence. They're going to be short Brendan Doyle. We don't know what the status for their manager is going to be, whether it'll be behind the wire or on the line, whatever. But Loughlane Gales will be hoping to get their championship back up and running with a win here on Sunday evening.
Yeah, it'll be a bounce back to be looking for, and look at whether Joy is on the line or not. It's at this stage it's get 2 points, and they have to get 2 points. The only thing with Father Dalton's, and we said it here a few weeks ago, they're a great team to get goals.
Unbelievable.
And even last weekend, and Brendan, I obviously wasn't at it because we're hurling ourselves, and they still got 2 goals.
Yeah, like Owen McCabe is just he's unique. Like he can get these goals out of nothing, and the same out in Shandona, just banging in a goal from 30 yards like a bullet, and he can do that in any game. So he's a real danger man.
Like I'd say, I don't know the stat, but if you went back and looked at when they were senior 3 years ago, I'd say they probably scored the most goals in that championship.
They did score the most. I said it, highlighted that they were so dangerous from the goals perspective. Every team had to work extremely hard to get points off them at the other end, because they were able to get them goals. And Owen is a kind of a prolific outlet all the time for getting
now,
goals.
on the flip side of it, Noel Connaughty is we've seen it last weekend with the stop. Like we were in line with it in the press box, but I don't know how he's seen it, because where the shot came from, it was a very, very last minute. If Dalton can create goals, and get a good performance, they won't be far off it. But it's hard to see Loughlane Gales being beaten. Yeah,
the game on Saturday evening, Castletowngeoghegan and Castlepollard. Pollard a lot of work to do, Pat, as well.
I would imagine they probably have, I suppose, but sure, there's no better outfit to work hard at. They have 2 awfully men there, pushing them on, and they're not coming down for the good of their health. They will have seen what happened last weekend. I'm sure they'll have plenty of ideas to change and swap it around, and that. They have quality players sprinkled through it. Now, they have been ravaged by emigration and lads travelling and all that, more so than any other club.
Yeah.
There's no point in saying that there are some quality players away, but they still have the likes of Darren there and Conor Gaffney, and they have even Alan comes in, and they have a nucleus of young players there. But the one thing about it is they get stuck in always. And they won't worry about Castletown. They'll get stuck into them as well, the very same.
Traditionally,
they'll give you the best until maybe the ref says, "Here, lads, settle down a little bit." But they will head for the goal straight away. You look at on form, you would expect Castletown to get over the line, but it won't be that simple. It's a team that Castletown have to respect. They have to make sure that they're treating them the very same as the Clonkills and the Raharneys and the Gales and all the rest. And if the rise off the ball, you know what happens then.
Yeah, but Adrian, looking at Castletown, the way they can take scores, like if they add a couple of goals to the amount of points that they're scoring these games, they will be very, very difficult to dethrone, never mind beating a one-off game.
If you let Castellan have the ball and play around with it, they'll score 30 points. And I suppose the other aspect, and it all depends on how, no matter how you look at it, at this stage, Castlepollard and Father Dalton's are one step away from playing each other, which is the following, I think that's the third round.
Right.
And, do you throw everything at it this weekend and go hell for leather to try and beat the two top teams, which both of them are playing one of each, as in the Gaels and Raharney last year's two county finals, and with aspiration for them to be in a county final again this year, obviously? Or do you get a good performance out of it and try and get out injury free and throw everything at it the following weekend?
Yeah, well, you look at time only will tell us that one. Raharney and Clonkill, Brendan, on Sunday evening it's been streamed live on Iarmhi TV. It's probably the big game of the weekend. This is a game, if we throw our minds back 12 months, the Raharney probably was the game that cost them going out of the championship.
Yeah, without a doubt. I think Raharney's conceded four goals in that game, and that was a huge negative for Hurling last year. Credit to Clonkill, they scored the goals, but it certainly made the champion. Hurling were up against it after that to try, and they still winning 3 games last year didn't qualify for the semi-final. But Clonkill had them on the head-to-head last year, and they duly deserved it. But this is all through the years, the battles that these two teams have had has been, there's been some great battles down the years, and I don't expect to be much in it on Sunday evening. I know Clonkill probably had a red card. I think the last day. I think it was Alan McGrath had a red card, so they'll be down him. But we're having a few injuries, so it's Darren Finn, one of the most consistent defenders Raharney have had over the years, is out for a few weeks with a hamstring, and that kind of creates a little bit of a rejig for them, and but these two teams, Raharney and Clonkill, will always give you a full-blooded battle. There'll be no quarter after again. It'll be from whistle to whistle. There's no question about that. And I suppose I don't like calling the game because it's a but Raharney will be looking to avenge last year's defeat. I think they won't be underestimating Clonkill or and vice versa. But I think they'll have a bit more about them this year.
Pat, I can't see us having the same goal fest that we had last year, but
I wouldn't think so. No, John Shaw, as I said, is very astute. I'd say he's studied a lot over the winter. He's got his house in order. He has a lot of injuries on his hands at the minute, but possibly it's the right time to have them. He'll get lads back, and I think Kieran Doyle is away at the moment. He'll be back. But Raharney will bring the best out of Clonkill. Clonkill are this type of a team that you'll never have them bet until you're sure that the scoreboard is in your favour and the whistle goes. That mentality, no matter who's playing in that green jersey, they'll give you 100%. And they're missing big names like Dara, and like Alan McGrath's missing again. He's a stalwart there for years. He got red carded the last day, but there was young lads. Young Robbie Cleary was an exception the last day. He scored 6 points from play, and he's as fit as a fiddle. He needs to be marked, not let him run around the park, because if he does, his touch is good, and he'll punish it.
And Luke Loughlin's in there as well.
Oh, sure, Luke. Yeah. You don't need to say anything about Luke. Just look at him. I mean, he has less hurling done than anyone in the county at the minute, and yet he's going to be hard marked because his fitness level, his intelligence, his movement, he knows where to be. And he can get, all he needs is another couple of weeks of the hurl, and he'll be back up as good as anyone.
Oisin Murray as well.
Clonkill won't be found wanting. No. Raharney, I would imagine, will have enough of experience and probably enough of quality, even allowing for the injuries that they have, possibly just to get over the line. But John will be quite happy to get over it and move on. But he won't get easy.
I suppose this time last year we're looking at Clonkill, at the second round, so many injuries, and we're looking down the barrel of a gun, I suppose. But they've really rebuilt over the course of last year, and I know I've already mentioned Oisin Murray there twice, but he's a definite starter on your senior teams, coming in with 1-2 the last evening, can offer lots. Cleary now with 6 points the last day. Luke Loughlin, like, they have firepower again.
Yeah, I haven't mentioned Niall Mitchell.
No.
Niall is actually on the freeze, and Padder didn't start. Now, he must have had some kind of a bit of an injury or something. He came on.
Yeah, Padder didn't play the league final either.
You know, he maybe had something, but
like last year in the Rahani Clonkill game, Padder Scally was man of the match.
Oh, yeah.
He was outstanding.
He dominated through the championship.
And like if he hits form, he's a handful. And you know, he's that kind of a real direct kind of a style of a hurler. He runs straight at you, and you know, he'll be if he could hit the same heights again, there won't be too many that'll hold him.
Yeah, and look, I'm going to mention him again. I've seen him playing football last weekend, and he was absolutely outstanding. Looked like he's really tuned into the football, and Clonkill will be looking to get Niall Mitchell tuned in equally to the hurling. You know, and if he is, he's like
another jogger, like, sorry, I mean,
huge man under a dropping ball. If he's, you know, we question sometimes his desire. Again, this is only an opinion, lads. You know, that's how it looks like from the outside. But if he's properly focused,
Niall is a top player. Like if he's in the right frame of mind, he's so intelligent on the ball. He brings other players into it. He can do it all. And when and if he hits his form, he's unmarkable actually.
I think, and like that is an opinion, that, you know, we talk about Luke Loughlin, you know, probably the least amount of hurling done, but Mitch has been so injury born for the last number of years, carrying injuries. Like, you know, he has missed a lot of hurling too. And then when you see him coming on, everything is expected from him. So you'd love to see him starting a couple of consecutive matches and seeing exactly what can you get out of him, because I'm sure himself he'll be disappointed with some of his displays in the Clonkill jersey no more than the maroon jersey. And you know, every player knows it themselves when they're not performing. So look, at Clonkill will have no different ambitions than Castletown, the Gales or Iarmhi. They'll be looking for a county final spot to win a championship, and that's year on year.
Well, that game was live on Iarmhi TV on Sunday evening, so we'll just run through those fixtures again in the senior championship. Castletown and Castle Pollard Saturday evening at 7 o'clock in TG Cusack Park. Loughlin Gales Father Dalton's TG Cusack Park on Sunday at 4:15. Rahani versus Clonkill in TG Cusack Park at 6 p.m. Senior B fixtures: Crooked versus Cullion on Saturday in Robinstown at 7 p.m. And then the other two games, Ringtown and Oliver Plunkett in Killucan at 4:30, Delvin and Brownstown also in Killucan at 6 o'clock. And the intermediate roundup for this week: Castletown versus Southern Gales on Friday evening in Shandon at 7, Clonkill and Rahani Friday evening in Collinstown at 7, and Turin and St Bridget's Saturday evening 5:15 in TG Cusack Park. That's our look back and look forward at the Hurling Championship, the start of it, and what we look forward to next week. Before I finish up, Adrian, 2 weeks ago you threw your name into the hat for your interest in the Westmeath senior hurling manager's position. Have you any update on it, or can you give us any more insight? Has anything happened yet?
No, the only update is that there's interviews next week. Next Monday I'm called for an interview, and sure we'll see how it goes after that. That's it, right?
That's it. Okay. No more other than that. We'll wait for 2 weeks and see how that went for you anyway. Lads, I want to thank you again for joining me here. Also want to thank Jerry Gavin is on camera, Tom Browne on production. We're going to finish up here in Clark's Bar, who have been as good to us as they always have been. So we thank Kieran and his staff for looking after us here. Jimmy Castles, don't know about anymore, Jimmy. Best of luck for the next 145 years. With that, we'll say goodbye for now.